Joining me now is Kathryn Attwood from Worthing, a spokesperson for the Centre for Bioethical Reform UK, which campaigns against abortion. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi, good morning.
Just a reaction to that first of all then. So a third of pregnancies leading to abortions in that year of 2022, and Brighton highest with Liverpool on that. What do you say to all that? What do you make of it?
I think the first important question to ask ourselves is if abortion doesn't end the life of an innocent human being, 30% of pregnancies ending in abortion isn't really a big issue. But it's because abortion does end the life of an innocent human being that 10% increase over a decade is really worth taking notice of. I think we can probably attribute the rise in abortion to a few things. One of them is the way that we think about the baby in the womb and the way we think about abortion. So, for example, the language we use to describe the baby in the womb, especially in the abortion industry, like just a fetus or a clump of cells or the pregnancy, is designed to dehumanize the baby.
I'm sure it doesn't feel like that for the pregnant woman, does it?
In what sense, sorry?
That description, I don't think a pregnant woman would think that, would they?
I don't believe that they experience their pregnancies like that, but I believe that's the language that's being used towards them when they are in a difficult pregnancy or an unexpected pregnancy. It's that dehumanizing language that makes it easier to remove those protections and value from their child in the womb. And the language around abortion is very euphemistic, using phrases like essential healthcare or women's rights or just choice. It kind of diminishes what abortion really is going to achieve, which is to end their baby's life in the womb, which can be hugely traumatic. And I think the second issue we can look at is that pills by post DIY.
Yes, I wondered about that because, that having come in during COVID and then remained, what do you think about that?
I think that makes up 61% of all abortions now. And as the previous guest just mentioned, that they think it's a good idea for earlier abortions to take place. That makes up around 80% of all abortions before 10 weeks. I don't think that diminishes the pain and trauma that causes to a woman. And it definitely doesn't change the fact that it ends the life of a human being in the womb. But this hands-off approach from the abortion industry that makes each woman's bathroom at home a makeshift abortion clinic, it's hugely traumatic, which I think also contributes to my third kind of thought about why there's an increase, especially in places like Brighton, where there's a huge young population with easy access to abortion through pills by post, is the harm that abortion causes, especially to women's mental health, with an 81% increased risk of mental health issues, 130% increased risk of alcohol abuse. Drug abuse is 250% higher in those who've experienced abortion, and 155% increased risk of self-harm and suicide for those who've experienced abortion compared to those who haven't. I think when someone's had an abortion in difficult life circumstances, they were unexpectedly pregnant, and they have an abortion, we haven't solved their problems by giving them an abortion. In fact, we've added further problems for them with the likelihood of this difficult mental health struggle afterwards. And 40.9% of the 250,000 abortions in 2022 were repeat abortions, women returning for a second or third abortion. And that definitely has impacted our abortion rate, especially locally.
And just on one of the other points that Ariane made a moment ago about the cost of living, do you think that's a factor in this?
I think it's a heartbreaking factor that we should think that in order to solve issues of poverty and financial difficulties, to kill our children in the womb. I think women deserve more support. If we put the money that we put into abortion that we do in this nation into supporting families so that they could keep their children alive in the womb and then bring them to full term and into this world, then we'd be doing our society a big favour. We can see how a society treats its most vulnerable and its most needing of protection. That's a real gauge to see how civilised the society is. I think we're failing women at the moment, especially saying because of your poverty, your only solution is to have an abortion.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Kathryn Attwood from Worthing, their spokesperson for the Centre for Bioethical Reform UK.